minute, Jack. This is a friendly celebration.
I don't much like the way you celebrate.
And welcome everybody to 4 Men in America for the week ending 8/25. And we have Jeff here, Ken's here, and Paul's here. And we welcome all you guys, welcome the audience. And we're going to start out. I wrote down some notes for the things that have happened this week. If anybody would like to talk about Cracker Barrel, that is one of the happenings of the week. Whether anybody cares or not, I don't know. Where we're at with the DC crime situation and success. But I thought we'd start out with the Arizona politics. And I sent some information to Jeff yesterday about a gentleman that was going to be at his Heirs of the Republic meeting last night. So I'm kind of anxious to hear what he reports on that. Maybe you guys would like to hear too, and then we can talk about it for a little while. It has to do with the election bill that Shauna Bullock put forward. Actually, it was a resolution, and it was going to allow Arizona to stop counting ballots the Friday before Election Day, so that they could speed up their counting process and into Election Day. And that resolution, unfortunately, did not pass. And there's a lot of politics behind all that. So anyway, Jeff, if you'd like to start on it and tell me what you found out last night, what you heard, what you were told.
I'll disappoint you on a good answer for that, although I still will work on getting an answer for that.
Okay, sure.
But we did have Alexander Colladon come and present. And I'm not sure if Ken, have you ever met him?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I served with him. I was in the Senate when he was in the House during my last 2 years in the Senate.
Okay. So very interesting guy. I want to get Paul's because afterwards I talked to a number of our attendees and some really liked him a lot and others did not like him. He's probably not a people person, but he was very dynamic speaker. When you look at him, you wouldn't think he would be a dynamic speaker, but he definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to election law. And he does have a really good track record of combating the other side of illegalities and what they've done. And so I couldn't help but be impressed by his knowledge and even his presenting style. I thought was quite funny. Paul, did you think that too?
Yeah, he has a great sense of humor. I suffer from hearing loss, and that was the second night I'd seen him because I went to his talk on Tuesday night at Delicia's in Tucson. I couldn't hear him very well then either, but I think if I put the two together, I got most of his story.
Right.
Mary Margaret was just chuckling her butt off sitting next to me at Delicia's, and so I know he was funny because she doesn't laugh at anything.
Yeah. Well, he really does tell a good story.
Yeah.
He admits to being socially awkward. He admits behind closed doors he's not very nice. He's a tough negotiator. And you can tell, I mean, look, this guy is kind of on his own. I mean, I don't think I think the reason he probably gets in trouble with other lawmakers is he just sees it the way he sees it, and that's the way it is. And I don't know, Ken, you might know him better and be able to comment as well, but I just found him very interesting. And he went to work for a law firm in Phoenix and lasted about 6 months, which doesn't surprise me. And I don't think it surprises him. And he went out on his own and he said he was dumb enough to take this lawsuit for down in Nogales about electioneering and found some just crazy corruption down there, and has been very, very successful on what he's done.
Is he a good? You think is he known as a good legislator, or do you know?
Well,
Jeff, Ken.
Well, Alexander Colladon is right 85% of the time.
Okay. Is he a native Arizonan, by the way?
I have no idea.
He is. No, he is.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a native. I mean, at the beginning of his talk, he's like, I'm the kid that got stuffed in the locker as a kid. I mean, and you can tell, he's not the best athletic looking guy in this, but he definitely knows electioneering.
Well,
You know,
yeah. I first met Alex when the Maricopa County audit was occurring back in 2021, where the Arizona Senate was auditing the Maricopa County election results. And Alex was hired by the auditor, the Cyber Ninjas group that came in from Florida, and he was their attorney. And every so often he would be in the VIP room, and I didn't know him at all at that time. And he has, I think, and he might admit to this, that he might be ADHD, or he might be
right. He's got some
a little
quirks.
bit of
Yeah.
high performing autistic or something, but he is socially a bit awkward. And you can tell that his mind is going 1,000 miles an hour. Sometimes his mouth can keep up with it. Rarely do his ears keep up with it. But I think he means very well. And
I do too.
when I became a senator, I, worked with him on election policies. Now, during the audit, something happened, and right near the end of the audit, he kind of had some type of a meltdown, and they had to bring in some other attorneys to try to finish up the project. And I'm not sure what exactly happened there. I know he was involved in, challenging Santa Cruz County, which needs challenging every opportunity
Yes.
we can.
Oh, yeah.
But he was actually the attorney for a good friend of mine who has a election auditing, let me call it election scrutiny nonprofit. And John said that at first Alex was everything they wanted and needed, and then kind of went off the rails, and they unfortunately ended up parting not on good terms. And so Alex is hard to deal with because he does not embrace the concept of compromising to get 90% of,
Yeah.
You know,
Team.
yeah, he gets it in his head what he wants to do, and anything that deviates from that is bad. And instead of getting 80% of a loaf, he will focus on the 20% that he's not getting. And sometimes he'll kind of decide not to do anything with you because, you're not giving him everything that he wants. So I'm very concerned that if he's our nominee for Secretary of State in 2026, I don't think he will prevail against Adrian Fontes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
Is he going to run for Secretary of State?
Oh, he's running.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why he came.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's why he came. He's
What district is he from?
Free.
he's from Scottsdale. I
CD3.
believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't sound
in
like he doesn't sound like he'd be a great campaigner.
Well,
I think
but
you'd be surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
he did pretty well yesterday.
Yeah.
he can tell a story, and he does know the law,
And he does.
and he comes across as very knowledgeable, and he's going 90 miles an hour, and his quirkiness or his ADHD, or I don't know what it is, he's on the spectrum, and
Yeah.
just high performing autistic or whatever, but he's a unique individual who comes across in a almost funny way, as both of you kind of noted, and I enjoy him most of the time. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
when he digs in and doesn't want to listen, and doesn't want to compromise, he can blow. He can blow. Like I say, the legislative process is almost always a process of incremental advancement.
Yeah.
And you never get everything you want in the first try. And even as especially when we have a Democrat governor right now and Republican controlled legislature, you got to give some things to get some things. Now, a lot of people say, oh, that's the definition of why politics in America is bad, because we've got people who will compromise. Well, if you can't compromise in our political arena, you're not going to get anything done.
Yeah.
If you think that your way is the highway and anybody else's suggestions or differences are unworthy,
Yeah.
it's
that's
hard to get anything done down there.
and that's kind of what it's all about, both nationally and statewide and locally, right?
Ken, do you know who else is running for
Yeah.
Secretary of State?
Well, the Republicans, I am trying to get Gina Swoboda, who is the state Republican Party chairwoman, who was recruited by Trump to run for the state party chair when Jeff DeWitt
Left.
got crossways with Kerry Lake, and they kind of threw Jeff out on his head, and they brought in Gina Swoboda. Gina Swoboda has worked in the Secretary of State's office for 2 different secretaries, is considered an election expert. She has navigated the Republican Party right now, which is a infighting,
Yes.
incestuous mess. And
The problem in
I
Arizona.
I think she gives us by far our best shot of winning the Secretary of State's office back in 2026.
But she isn't declared yet.
She has not. But the far right, the MAGA right, has gone after her for, in my opinion, stupid reasons. And the 2 national committeemen, one's a state senator, Jake Hoffman, and one is it's Liz Harris. She was expelled from the House of Representatives a couple of years ago for lying to the House about some things that came up, and they happen to be the 2 Republican National Committee men and women. They called for Gina Swoboda's removal as the Republican state party chair because, in their opinion, she had the audacity to suggest that when people get these ESA scholarship funds from the state of Arizona to educate their children at private or whatever school they want to send their child to, or even homeschooling, she had the audacity to say that the state should be able to make sure that those monies are spent on education. And unfortunately, there are people who have gotten money from the state ESA program and spent it on diamonds and
Oh, wow.
jewelry and golf memberships and all kinds of stuff. And because Gina said
That's a good point.
we should have some guardrails to make sure that people spend that education money on their children's education, Hoffman and Harris have called for her resignation because they don't want any guardrails or restrictions on how people spend this money. And if you don't have some restrictions on making sure that people spend education money for their children on their children's education, unfortunately, there's a few bad apples that will abuse it, and you will lose the whole program. Arizona is known for being the leading state on allowing Arizona citizens to have choice in their children's education.
Yeah, and I like that. Yeah,
So-
but we just got to make sure it's not abused. Yeah.
So right now, Alex Collison is the only Republican announced.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Well,
so
the
he's
neat
already-
thing is,
Why does
but
he
I'm
want
hoping
to?
that Swoboda will get in.
Why does he want to be Secretary of State? As he said,
he has. I mean,
because he knows a lot about.
sued- Well,
Okay.
he sued Adrian Fontes, I think 4 different times, and he's won every time. And so he says, hey, I've got his number. You know, if there's anybody else there running who has beat him more than me, then I'll step aside. But he's glad that we're having a lieutenant governor this next round, because he has no ambition to be governor, doesn't think he'd be a good one, doesn't like it. He wants to laser focus on making sure that the laws that are passed are actually adhered to. And right now, he really accuses Adrian Fontes of creating his own laws and ignoring the current laws on the books. And so I do think if he's our only guy, I'd certainly vote for him. I'd like to know a little more about, who Ken wants to go, but I was impressed by his intellect. The only thing he responded on the other issue, Don, that you had wanted me to bring up was that we just couldn't get it through the Senate, but we didn't have time to really dig in deep. But I do have his phone number, and he said I could give him a call, which I do plan on doing. I have his personal cell number.
Well, the way as it turned out, they didn't get it through the Senate because they took that part of the resolution out.
Right. Well, that's what I want to explore. But I didn't.
So yeah.
But I think we had a really good feel for him.
Good.
And,
So what did the two group? You said the two group. Your group was kind of split into two. Some liked him and some didn't. What did the ones
Right.
like about him, and what did the ones not like about him?
Well, Paul can add in on this too, but from what I got, the ones that like it really laughed at his stories, because in some ways he was self-effacing, but in other ways he was, really holds himself in high esteem. So he was really, it was kind of funny the way he did present on that, and people were impressed with his election laws, and so I think the people who really liked him were impressed with his track record, his knowledge of election laws, and his laser focus as Secretary of State, focusing on the elections. And people like that. The people who didn't like him, it was all about likability. They did not like him. That's what it was. Yeah.
It just
didn't like
just
him.
didn't like him.
I can understand that completely. He is rough around the edges.
Yeah.
It's his way or the highway.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will get better in the campaign process, and maybe he has already. And he's, presenting in a way that at least half the crowd was, kind of liking him. But
Yeah.
I don't think he will fare well in a statewide race where a third of Arizona is Republican, about a little over a third, 37%. A third is independent, and a third is Democrat. You don't win the general election in Arizona by just winning Republicans. You've got to appeal, especially to independents. And
a lot of it is likability, unfortunately or not, a lot of it is likability. So that was the worst complaint I had. It's just, I was, because I asked a couple of people, what didn't you like about what he was saying? I just don't like
Just
him.
don't like you.
That's,
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking, of course, Ken, with what Ken said about likability. He's not running for an office. He's not running as a representative. And I want somebody in the Secretary of State's office who's focused, as Jeff was saying, on his mission. And this guy looked like he was focused on the mission.
yeah, no question.
I didn't find him unlikable. I found him eccentric, but not unlikable.
that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it, Paul. He's eccentric.
Yeah, but he's just like this with the answers, because we had a Q&A after both sessions that I attended, and he's a little long-winded sometimes, but he's painting the picture of what the answer to that question is, and I think he did a good job of that. And I think he could use a little more political polish, I got to admit, but he came across, to me at least, as a guy I'd want in there. And,
Yeah. No,
Is he a handshaker?
he was not a glad hander, but he was, because when he both times that I saw him in the last couple of days, he was engaged in conversation with a single person. At Jeff's meeting, it was Anna. He spent the whole evening before his presentation clarifying stuff with Anna. They were back and forth. And I got to the other meeting just a little bit late, so I don't know what his pre-talk activities were. But afterwards, he was very, I don't know, he's not outgoing. Well, he is outgoing, but he's not. He wasn't running around the room shaking hands with people. He was in deep conversations with people.
He was.
On subjects that was interesting to him. But I like the way he answered the questions, and I like the way he knew the law. And it's like I don't care if my surgeon has a great bedside manner as long as he takes out the right parts and puts in puts the good ones back in or something. I don't need to talk to the guy. He just needs to solve the problem.
No, he'll be a fighter. There's no doubt.
My feeling is if he wants to run against Fontes, he's got to go down to Fontes' level and explain what Fontes is doing wrong, and keep that in the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah.
The idea, I came up with this idea after the Tuesday night thing. I went home and I thought about this, and I said, what he really needs to do is emphasize that job is the step to the governorship. In fact, I mentioned that Jan Brewer, became governor after Napolitano went off and played communist in Washington, and that people have to make a decision. Who would you want to run the state? Andrew Fontes, or Culloden. Yeah, and then just before I was going to talk to him about that, Anna got up and said that there's going to be a lieutenant governor, and has that passed? Is that on the referendum?
Yes.
Or is that?
Yes, I think it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
The voters passed that 2 years ago or 3, and so the 2026 gubernatorial election in Arizona will be the first time that after the primary, whoever wins the partisan primaries, or whoever gets to the general election, will name a lieutenant governor running mate, similar to the way the U.S. presidential candidates name a vice presidential running mate.
So they'll be on the ballot together.
They'll be on the ballot together, and that lieutenant governor person will be first in line if something happens to that governor. But the Secretary of State, who is currently first in line, will move to second in line. The Attorney General will be the next one. The Treasurer is the next. Right now in Arizona, the line of successorship to the governor is Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, State Treasurer, and then the Superintendent of Public Instruction. The voters passed a change to the Arizona Constitution that now inserts a lieutenant governor who is named as a running mate by the governor candidates, and that person is now first in line, and then the others all went down one notch. Alex Culloden would make a terrible governor.
That was my next question. Would you want him as the governor?
I would not want Alex Culloden as the governor of Arizona, but I'm impressed, and I'm impressed and pleased that he admitted to both groups apparently that he recognizes that as well. He would be a terrible governor.
No, he's laser focused and has his lane.
Yeah.
And I was going to say if the superintendent of public instruction ever becomes our governor, he would be first on the FBI list to see who knocked everybody else off.
Well, we have often had secretaries of state ascend to the governor's chair.
Yes, yeah, we have.
One time we had the attorney general position. That's how
I didn't
Bruce
know
Babbitt.
that.
That's how Bruce
Is
Babbitt
that right?
became the governor. Is that when let's see who died in office.
Was the gal?
Raul Castro. Raul Castro left the governor's office early, back in the 70s, I think it was.
Yeah.
And Wesley Bolin, who was the elected Secretary of State, became the governor. But Wesley was very old and died 9 months into his office as the governor. The appointed Secretary of State that he had appointed to replace himself was none other than Rose Mofford, Rose Mofford had been appointed by him as Secretary of State, so she couldn't ascend because the Arizona Constitution says you have to be an elected secretary to take the governor's chair. So in that instance only in Arizona's history did it go to the third position, which was Bruce Babbitt, who was Attorney General. That's how Bruce Babbitt became the governor of Arizona.
So Ken,
Now, later,
goes- yeah.
later, when Rose Mofford was an elected Secretary of State, and Fife Symington was removed. No, not Fife.
Meacham?
Meacham.
Meacham.
When Meacham was removed, Rose Mofford had been elected Secretary of State by that time, and so she could become and did become the governor.
So Ken, before
Yeah.
you leave, I wanted to ask you, we had talked about this before. Is the Freedom Caucus still pushing Kimberly Yee to run against for the superintendent of schools?
Yes.
They're still
Yes,
pushing
they
it.
have. Yeah, they're still pushing that, and she just announced the 4 previous Republican superintendents of public instruction have endorsed her. So she picked up a big. Got
That's huge.
Lisa Graham Keegan and John Huppenthal and Diane Douglas, and who was the other one? Jaime Malera. So that really put a shot to her campaign against Horn. But I'm still very concerned that Kimberly was, who I like very much, and I've always supported in everything she did. But I am very cautious this time. I do not like the fact that when she made her announcement as running for superintendent, that there was one person standing behind her. That's Jake Hoffman, the self-proclaimed chair of the Arizona Freedom Caucus, who I think is very dangerous. But he thinks me equally dangerous, so that's all right.
Yeah, well, and he's the one, Jeff, that pulled that
Right.
little thing out of the
Yes.
bill. So just to tie all these strings
Well,
together.
let me tell you, when I was in the Senate for 2 years, 2023 and 2024, I put forth a bill on election integrity, which I think would have done more for election integrity in Arizona. And it's along the lines of what we've discussed, that before they certify the election, the counties would have to release the ballot images where you can see what the votes were on all the ballots. The ballots are anonymous. And the cast vote record, which is a spreadsheet where all the votes from each ballot were tabulated. If you have the ballot images, on anonymous ballot images, and the cast vote record, you can verify 1 or 1,000 or all of the ballots, paper ballots, to make sure that on ballot number 600, if they voted for Smith in this race and Jones in that race and Garcia in that race, that in the cast vote record spreadsheet, the county or whoever was running the election recorded a vote for Smith and Jones and Garcia in the correct races. You can also look at the bottom of each candidate's column in the cast vote record and verify that they got the number of votes that the county told us they got. And you can actually verify the election. I got that through the Senate, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats supporting it. I got it through the House, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats supporting it, and Hobbs vetoed it. So I came back the next year, worked even harder. I got it through the Senate. I even had Adrian Fontes supporting the bill under the idea of transparency in our elections, and the House Freedom Caucus killed it.
Why do you think that is?
They were mad at me that I didn't put a bunch of other crap that they wanted in when I was just trying to fix one particular thing in our elections and make them totally transparent and verifiable. But that's where Alex comes from. He comes from this Freedom Caucus, you're going to do it our way or no way. And that's what scares me. And it scares me that I love the fact that he wants to be laser focused on being the Secretary of State. But he needs to remember, as some secretaries don't, and Adrian Fontes has got himself into trouble on this point, that the secretary has to follow the laws that the legislature has passed. The secretary doesn't get to make up his or her own stuff. And the recent lawsuit that the Republicans prevailed against Adrian Fontes on, one of the main responsibilities that the Secretary of State has is approving or putting together, compiling what's called the Election Procedures Manual. It's about 600,
Right. We talked about that. Yeah.
600 pages that kind of fills in a lot of the details to the hundreds of pages of election law that are on the state statutes.
But you can't make new law.
You can't add new stuff in there. And Adrian Fontes put into his last election procedures manual a bunch of stuff about, well, two things. He got sued about two things and he lost. And he should have lost, because he put in the elections procedures manual that if you come into a polling location and you're wearing a shirt that says Trump for president or whatever,
you can't
we
vote.
can throw you out and you don't get to vote. Well, and they also put in something in there that if you were unruly, it wasn't unruly, but anyway, he added stuff to state law instead of just following the state law. And he also put in his election procedures manual that if a county didn't submit their certified election results, that the state could go forward and certify the statewide results, excluding that county completely. And that would be a no-no.
Yeah.
We cannot disenfranchise. It kind of happened in Cochise County 4 years ago. A couple of the supervisors in Cochise County. Now, they were upset at the way the election had been done in Maricopa County. And so they didn't want to send in the Cochise County results as a protest against Maricopa County.
Right.
Well, that was equally wrong, in my opinion. The job of the job of the Cochise County Board of Supervisors is to certify the Cochise County election results, not complain about what
Any
they
other
don't
county.
agree with in Maricopa County, withhold sending in their own results, and try to stop the election that way. So,
Like I'm
We-
going to
we got-
smash myself in the head unless you listen.
exactly,
To me.
yeah, because if the Cochise County election results had not been included last year, Biden would have, or Harris would have won, or yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to be smart, guys.
Hey. Ken and Jeff and Paul did not Katie Hobbs also put some things in the manual that Ducey wouldn't approve it, and so she withdrew a lot of stuff.
But that's the process for the manual.
Right.
I did two of them during my 6 years as Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Once the Secretary prepares the manual, it goes to the Attorney General.
Mm-hmm.
Once the Attorney General approves or makes a few adjustments, then it goes to the governor. The governor gets the same opportunity. When I was Secretary, Terry Goddard, Democrat, was the Attorney General. But I played it straight, didn't put crap into the election procedures manual that wasn't supported by state law. Terry Goddard approved it. Jan Brewer approved it as the governor, and I got it. The next secretary tried to play games. It was a Republican. She could not get her election procedures manual approved by a Republican Attorney General and the Republican governor. And so the last election procedures manual I left in 2015 had to be used for the next two election cycles because the next secretary, a Republican, tried to play games and kind of got squished down too. So yeah, Ducey and others had to correct some of the things that Hobbs tried to put in her election procedures manual. And the Republicans, with Culloden as one of their lawyers, just prevailed in the courts at striking out two. Now, I said there's 600 pages in the elections procedures.
Right.
He got struck down on two things. So it's not like the whole thing was thrown out.
Right.
But he tried to go too far on two little things. They called him on it, and they prevailed in getting those thrown out, as should have been the case.
And luckily somebody read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You never find two things unless you read it. So it doesn't sound
And
like
know the
it
law.
sounds like a good
Yeah.
question for Collin. Is this what's he going to do with the electioneering manual?
Well,
Well,
and
he
the
kind
thing I
of
was,
he
Go
did
ahead.
comment on that. Well, he did comment on that and said he'd follow the law.
Yeah.
And right now, what Adrian Fontes is doing is not in trying to get there what he wants in there.
Yeah.
So, and comments are due by the end of the month here.
Yeah.
well, and that's where I get a little concerned. Collin can say Adrian Fontes isn't following the law. Well, Adrian Fontes didn't follow the law on 598 pages, and he got struck down on 2 out of 600 pages. But Collin, I'm sure, in a campaign event, is going to say Adrian Fontes is not following the law, and we caught him. Well, it was on 2 issues that are each less than 1 page long out of 600 pages.
It just depends on how big those issues are, in the fine print. But yeah.
So we're at
Well,
about we're at 37 minutes. Ken, are you still?
Yeah. I got to, well, my mother is 87 years old today, and her birthday party at her house started 7 minutes ago.
Well, you better
All
get
right,
going
yeah.
then. So
So I'm gone.
tell her we
That's
all
the
wish her a
priority.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take
And
care.
next week, if you were going to do a rant, I will do it next week, because I just found out yesterday that a lady, the far left is going nuts over the fact that a lady named Heather Honey, her last name is actually Honey, has been given a very important position in the Homeland Security Department over elections. And they say that she's an election denier and this and that. I think the lady is wonderful. And next week, I want to tell you why.
Okay. Well,
Awesome.
yeah, great. We'll put that on the that's on the
I'm gonna hold
agenda,
my
Ken.
breath.
So you take care and have a good week. Okay.
All right.
Thanks
you
for
guys.
coming on. Thanks
you,
for all
Ken.
the info. Okay, guys. So how about comments on Cracker Barrel? What do you guys think about the? And I don't know if that's been affected. The only Cracker Barrel I know of in southern Arizona is the one in Marana, right?
Casa Grande, and there's one in Casa Grande.
The one in Casa Grande. Okay. So have you guys? Patty and I went by a Cracker Barrel today in the Villages, and it was about 1/3. It was noontime, and the parking lot was about 1/3 full, maybe less.
Have they modernized it or
No, it's got the same old look, but people still apparently they're staying away because it's usually packed here close to it's right next to the Villages, so it's easy to get to. Everybody's got big access. And
Well, I've always loved Cracker Barrel.
oh yeah, we had too. Well,
Look,
yeah,
The
because
only
you
thing I've heard, the stock went down, it's back
right,
up.
right,
They went down this thing, this old white man, apparently on the front.
kicking him off the
You
sign.
know,
Yeah,
And the only thing that I've heard is my son keeps sending me these, actually racist jokes about Cracker Barrel, and against, obviously it's a racist against whites
yeah.
type of thing. And so anyway, that's really kind of, I guess that's going around wherever his social media stuff is.
That's a Cracker Barrel is a company that headquartered in Tennessee. It's a southern area based restaurant chain, and it's got that southern flavor, kind of the southern
love
flavor
it.
food.
They're-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody,
It's a-
when you go in there and you, in any part of the country, when you look on the walls, you see something from your childhood, right?
Yeah.
You remember growing up and traveling around the country with your family or somewhere, and you saw a sign or a Coca-Cola machine or a sign
But
for a
how
tractor
did they ever
company.
get a CEO
I don't know.
like the one they chose?
Yeah. And they also hired.
I just you wonder where these people come from.
I
These
know.
multi-billion-dollar companies, and they hire
Yeah.
somebody. I don't know how.
Thinks they're
Like, you
smarter
could just
than
throw a
everybody
dart.
else. Yeah. Yeah, and they also hired, I don't know if you guys heard, they hired a guy to to be the DEI expert, right? So
I didn't hear that.
yeah, he got involved too. And so I'm also hearing that the employees are not happy with all this stuff, you know.
I'm sure.
And of
Yeah.
course, you know, if you're an hourly worker and you're not getting customers, you're certainly going to be unhappy because you'll have
Not
a
getting
chance
tips.
to lose your job. Yeah, and you don't get tips. So yeah.
But
So
I understand it. I mean, look, I'll go eat at Cracker Barrel. You know, I mean, they went through this thing. I still like it, but I'm still upset at the Washington Redskins for giving up their name. I still
yeah,
don't
oh
like.
yeah, and the Cleveland
They're
Indians,
not-
right?
You know, James T. Harris has such a, you know, and he's the
Yeah,
the radio personality here in Arizona.
Right.
Is just wonderful.
yeah,
But his saying it's racist if you want it to be.
yeah.
Like, you know, I don't, you know, maybe it just doesn't register in my brain, but I don't know why any of that would be racist to me. It's more of an honor. Look, I want to affiliate and associate myself with, you know, Native Americans
Sure.
and their culture and
Yeah,
bravery.
and I don't think Ken. I mean Jeff and Paul. I don't think the Native Americans ever complained about any of them.
He certainly
Some of
didn't
them
about the
did.
Redskins.
Yeah, some of them did, but then you had a counter.
Yeah,
And I really got in an argument with a really good buddy of mine saying, well, let's go up to the Indian reservations in Arizona and go ask them and start saying, you know, Redskins and see what I said. I'd be happy to. And when I was driving through an Indian reservation in Arizona,
mm-hmm.
there was a high school out in the middle of nowhere. And guess what they were called?
Redskins.
The Redskins. and they had the same,
Logo.
you know,
Logo,
logo as the Washington Redskins.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Sure.
I kick myself to this day because we were in a 3-car caravan
Yeah.
with my family following me. But I kick myself to this day for not
Taking a
just
picture.
pulling
Take a
over
picture.
quick or turning the whole caravan around and
Yeah.
taking a picture.
Well, you know that's because we didn't have cell phones then, right? You could just.
Well,
you know-
no, this was during the controversy.
Okay, so
This wasn't that long ago.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Gotcha.
no, this was just
Yeah.
I mean, just before COVID. I mean, this is when everything was, you know, not going well. So
Yeah.
it's in the same generation of these problems happening.
You know, while we're talking about the Redskins, I don't know if you guys heard this, but Victor David Hansen talked about it in one of those videos that I sent you guys to watch, and some of the NFL teams are going to have male cheerleaders this year.
Yeah. Did you see Tim
Yeah.
Lawson, a Viking
Victor-
cheerleader?
Victor David Hansen says, "Who in the crowd? Who is that going to appeal to? 70% of the football crowd in an NFL stadium is male, 30% female probably. Who's it going to appeal to? It isn't going to appeal to the females, and it's certainly not going to appeal to the males. So why do it? Why even do something
Well,
like that?
I really, you know, look, Christmas morning as a child was magical for me.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the NFL was no less magical to me as a child.
Sure. That's
'Cause I
that's
love
because you were a
Johnny
Baltimore
Unitas.
Colt fan. So
I did. Johnny Unitas. I liked, and I like Chris Hamburger, you know,
Oh,
Washington Redskins, and Billy Kilmore, and of course the Pittsburgh Steelers were just like the devil, you know, Darth Vader.
yeah, well the Bears were the devil, man.
Yeah, well, those two. But the thing that I get upset about is, you know, the NFL has shot itself in the foot so many times
Oh,
in
yeah.
my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just one thing. It's just you know, whether it's the names and abandoning that, or, you know, putting up with the kneeling for the flag.
The stupid
you know,
rules of the game.
Hank Williams Jr.
Yeah.
Ostracizing him. I mean, who is any more American than Hank Williams Jr.?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I mean, he is middle America.
Look at his
so-
stupid kickoff rule. Have you seen these preseason games? How they kick off?
I haven't seen
Yeah.
one. No.
Well,
Yeah.
they line up. The offensive team lines up on their 45-yard line, right? but the defensive team lines up on their 45-yard line. And the kicker kicks the ball, and when it goes over their heads, that's when they start running. So they don't get they don't get the long run at somebody to hit them.
I wonder if that's to slow the speed.
Well, that's what they imagine, but I mean, the kickoffs are so stupid looking at you. I don't know why they should just do away with them and let the guy kick the ball, and wherever it goes, that's where you get the ball. I mean, it's just dumb. Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
but I guess I brought that up because we always want to relive kind of those moments of excitement of watching this.
Yeah, that's Cracker Barrel stuff.
And I just don't get that anymore.
I know. Yeah,
because I don't.
No, I don't either.
Even though I just don't, and I don't think it's the Santa Claus. Same thing. I think they did it to themselves.
Yeah, after the Colts moved to Indianapolis, Jeff, what I did was I have this little Johnny Unitas shrine in our house inside one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In the cabinet, yeah. I've got a Sports Illustrated with him on the cover. I've got a Wheaties, part of a Wheaties box with Johnny U on the cover. I got
to get in your will.
Yeah, I'll take a picture. I'll take a picture of it sometime. Put it up as a background. I've got my daughter sent me the book about the greatest game ever played. Which was the 1958 championship game. The first sudden death game ever with the New York Giants.
Oh my God! That is crazy.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
I've told you guys that my grandfather was the architect and engineer of Baltimore Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, my mom's got the original rendering. He was in that movie when they tore it down. Showing all the stuff. So we've got. Back in the day, he had his own box, to watch the games, and pretty.
Well,
cool.
If you go on YouTube, you can watch a lot of the old Colt games.
Good afternoon, football fans from Yankee Stadium. It's the Colts against the New York Giants for the World Championship of Professional Football. Retchachar waiting for the whistle from referee Ron Gibbs. Here's the kick. Retchachar gets a good boot going high and deep into the Giant end zone.
Wolf sticking here in Yankee Stadium, which has never been noisier than it is this afternoon. Left to go. Mario will attempt the field goal from the 20-yard line. Here's the boot. It is high. It is good. He makes it. Myra makes it. Ties the ball game 17-17. Man, what a game.
Never before in the history of the National Football League or professional football has there been an extra period and the Giants won the toss.
Well, if you go on YouTube, you can watch a lot of the old Colt games. Late 50s and 60s, you can catch some of the old games. It's really.
But just to lose some of that magic,
Oh yeah, I know. I understand.
It is a shame because it's hard to get it back. It really is, and it's kind of hard to get it back. Like we went through with COVID.
Yeah.
The coaches I used to have, the swim coaches and the other coaches, were always make the hard decisions, make the right choices. And And of course, not just during COVID, but more importantly, with the men and women's sports issues
Yep.
with the coaches. And yet the coaches allowed it. And why did they allow it?
Yeah.
Because of fear. And you just kind of, the way I used to look at my coaches diminished greatly, because almost without exception, they all just caved.
Yeah.
And
I know. Yeah. We talked, Patty and I were at a Bible study yesterday, and we were talking about how so many Christians caved at the start of COVID by not going to church and listening to these fools telling
Well,
us.
it wasn't just the Christians.
Well, I
Don.
know,
It was
I
the
know.
churches.
I
It was
know.
the leadership.
Yeah, I know. Leadership. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't. Look.
Yeah.
If somebody has a parish or a ward or a whatever congregation, and the leaders aren't standing up, it really sets a priority. And in my particular church, we are just last Sunday, and I'm not kidding, was the first Sunday since COVID that we had as much or more than we did pre-COVID. So it's taken over 5 years.
Over 5 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some haven't come back. And to me, it's like, look, if the leaders aren't going to think it's important, what's the congregation thinking?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm loosely associated with what's called the Black Robe Regiment. Have y'all heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is what the British called the clergy in the colonies, because the clergy was pushing the people for independence. And the British Army said they were one of our worst enemies was the clergy, and that's how they called them the Black Robe Regiment.
Yeah.
And it's starting to regrow. My priest is a member, and I go on their website, and it's brrusa.org, and you can study. But what they basically are doing is they're bringing the pastors back into understanding their obligation as Christians to educate their flocks to what's happening with the government.
Yep.
The Johnson Amendment took the fire out of the pulpits.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with the Johnson Amendment, that was when he said anybody who preaches for a candidate or a cause loses their tax exemption.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're a Republican,
Well,
it doesn't apply to Democrats.
but that's not the way it was written. But you may be right.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, they're starting to admonish the clergy to go ahead and take a stand and
Sure.
do the right thing, because
Yeah.
you're failing your flocks if you don't guide them in a biblical Christian godlike way
Yep.
to do what's right for the country.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I understand there is a priority of principles, or as Jordan Peterson would say, hierarchy of values. And the churches do preach, we need to be obedient to the law.
Yeah.
And you have God's law and man's law.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a conflict, and I can see how people would be confused, especially if there's the false narrative of you're going to kill everybody if you get together. But the problem is that even when we knew it wasn't killing the kids, even when we knew there was a certain segment of the population that were most at risk, even when we knew that, we were still complicit and complied.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that the church should never listen to the rules and say, okay, we got to cut it for a month.
Yeah.
But the problem is those exceptions become the rule.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yes, we are going to comply. And of course, we've got to be able to teach that.
Yeah. And every month they came up with a new exception, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something else to hold over your heads. So.
But if all the churches would have united and said, we're not doing it.
Yeah. That's
what are they going to do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, a lot of pastors in California got put in jail. Not a lot of pastors, but some pastors actually got jailed in California for holding services. So I don't think that happened in Arizona.
Yeah, and you're right.
Didn't happen
Jeff.
in Florida.
It's the old sticks tied together. You can break them one at a time, and that's what they did. They broke us one at a time because we didn't stick together.
Yeah.
And it's something we've got to do.
But I'm surprised people in California just didn't have a Freedom Day and all go to the beach. I mean,
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just, come on.
Yeah.
You guys are supposed to be the rebels.
Well, they wouldn't even
Real
let
liberal.
people surf. They
Yeah,
arrested
by
people for
themselves.
trying to surf. What, you're gonna go out on the wave and get
But-
COVID, right? Out there and 40 feet offshore, that's where it was hanging that day. What is that, right? Oh my
And,
goodness.
and the sad part is we haven't gone back and had a debrief.
Yeah.
Everybody's too scared to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
And
nobody
some,
wants to take responsibility.
some people on YouTube won't even use that word. You know, they make up words to use and call it that because they're afraid that YouTube's going to censor them. So, which we might get censored for this, but whatever.
Well,
We can
you know,
still watch
listen-
it. You can watch it on Rumble if you don't see us on YouTube.
Right, right.
That's why I decided to to upload to both channels so that if we ever get
No,
censored,
I think it's important.
yeah,
But it's really important also though, Don, for people who were, this is the problem, is people don't want to recognize they were just flat out wrong.
Yeah.
They were wrong.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And you need to admit you were wrong and you screwed your own children. You ruined the economy. We're still paying for it today. It was the cause of inflation because
Yeah.
the government put stuff in. We had less production, more money in the economy. And it is why the next generation can't afford homes today.
Yeah.
It's why the prices have gone up. And, you could go down the list.
It ruined millions of young people's work ethic, right?
Oh, it did.
'Cause
We
they got paid
and
for
it
not
closed
working.
down my favorite restaurant in Tucson, which could be the most important of all.
What was that?
And how-
What's your
that
favorite?
was the Poca Cosa
Oh, Poca Cosa.
downtown.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But we're too scared to go do it because the lingering effects of this is going to last a generation or two.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but part of the reason it's not being done, Jeff and Don, is that there are so many people up to their eyeballs in manipulation and their money that this all brought in. And I think that's the problem. And I always quote Hillary Clinton, if I go down, half of Washington's going down with me. So everybody
Right.
knows what's in what skeletons are in everybody else's closet. And nobody wants to be the first one to open somebody else's closet because somebody's going to reach around and open theirs, and all that bad stuff's going to come flowing out. And so they're a kind of a self-protection society.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And nobody wants to admit wrong because they've got their futures all paved with whatever they've been doing for the last 15 or 20 years. And you take a guy like Fauci, I think I read where his retirement from the government is over $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
He's not going to say, well, I was lying. Boom.
Yeah.
That's going to cut
No,
into his weekend money.
So
that's-
Mike, before we sign off tonight, guys, I wanted to ask you: we're coming up on Congress and the House of Representatives and the Senate are coming back to work next week after their little month-long vacation, and we have talked before about codifying President Trump's executive orders. Now, Speaker Johnson put out a report that they had codified and passed 50 of President Trump's executive orders, and I'll get that list for the next program. But I'd like to talk about that next week. And I don't know where the Senate's at. I don't think the Senate has passed any of those 50 bills that the House codified his executive order. So I think that's a really good topic to talk about, and because they've
And
got to
I
get
also
that
wanted
done.
to-
And they got a budget
talk
deadline
about-
coming. They got a budget deadline coming up on September 29th. The
Yeah.
new fiscal year starts October 1st. So there's going to be a lot of excitement coming up here in the next 4 weeks.
It's going to be a lot of finger pointing, too.
I want to comment on Trump's flag burning executive order.
Oh
next
yeah,
week as
sure.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll bring that up. Sure. Yeah. So anyway, we're right at about 56 minutes, guys. So anything else? Anybody got any last minute thing they want to say, or are we good to go?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right,
Thank you,
guys. Thanks
Don.
for joining us. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody, for joining 4 Men in America. And God bless you all. And God bless America. And we will see you all next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
I know.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better.
Maxwell.
Yeah?
You're home.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Mrs. A.